Hello, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. We meet again, inshallah, in this session, and we are to discuss alamat ta'nith fil asma. Previously, I've mentioned that I was quite confused whether we've already seen the alamat ta'nith fil asma or not, but then I realized it's just the topic after the one we did previously. So right after that, we are looking at alamat ta'nith fil asma. Okay. Now, of course, there are a lot of difference between the alamat ta'nis fil af'al and then the alamat ta'nis fil asma. So we are going to see a whole different thing, inshallah. Now let's get to the amthila. It says alamat ta'nis fil asma, signs of feminine in nouns. These signs are to show you that this particular noun is feminine. So if you look at the topic we did before, we learned about the signs of feminine in verbs, and then we said that when you have a fa'il that is feminine, then the verb should also be feminine. Now, to know when you need to give this verb the feminine marker, you should see the feminine marker in the fa'il, which is a noun. So you should know these signs so that when you see any of these signs in the noun, you know how to bring your verb, whether it is past tense verb, whether it is present tense verb. Okay. So it says here in the amsila, number 1, says tuhsinu Khadijatu at-tahya. Khadija is good at cooking. Tahya can come at times with the meaning of frying, but generally is cooking. Khadija is good at cooking. Tuhsinu Khadijatu at-tahya. Says najahat al-mujtahidatu. The hardworking lady or the hardworking woman, the hardworking one, succeeded or won or was successful. Najahat. So you can see the feminine markers about the verbs, the ta'u mutaharrika, and then the ta'u ta'nis as-sakina. This has a sukun, but because of the alif wal lam here, that is why this kasra is coming to aid reading, what we call iltiqa is-sakinain. In Lugha Arabiya, iltiqa is-sakinain is haram. In Nahu, you can have sukun and right after it there is another sukun. And it is believed that this alif here is sukun. So you can't have this alif having sukun and this ta also having sukun. It's unreadable. You can't. So if you want to read it apart, then you say najahat, then the sukun shows on the ta. Then you say al-mujtahidatu. So najahat al-mujtahidatu. The hardworking one was successful, or succeeded, or won. Tarqusu ad-dubbatu. Ad-dubbatu is bear. A bear, that big animal. Normally, I don't know, these snowy areas you find them there. Very big animal like that. We call it ad-dubbatu. It says tarqusu ad-dubbatu. The bear is dancing. Tarqusu from raqasa, to dance. Arqusu, tarqusu, huwa yarqusu, and all that. It says raqadat ad-dajajatu. The hen has what do we call it? You see the way the hen will sit down, like when it has its children under it, the way it will go down. Even the way the lion bows down, that kind of they are going down is called raqada. I raqada bimana to kneel, to sit in that manner. Okay. So raqadat jajajatu. Then we have hazat layla jaizatan. With regards to the vocabularies, the words, if you want the exact word, you have dictionaries like Al-Ma'ani, you have the dict box, all accessible on Play Store. You can easily punch in the word to get the exact meaning if you don't understand it. Hazat layla jaizatan. Haza, to win, to obtain something. Hazat layla jaizatan. Layla won an award. Layla got an award. Okay. Then we have tashtari Salma fakihatan. Salma is buying a fruit. Okay. Ahabbat as-sughra al-kubra. The smaller one loved the bigger one. ضلت الأمياء الطريق. The blind one. Al-amya'u is the feminine of a'ma. A'ma, blind. Al-amya'u, blind but feminine. So it says ضلت الأمياء الطريق. The blind woman or the blind one lost her path. تطيع أسماء أمها. Asma obeys her mother. تعتني زينب بملابسها. Zainab cares for her dress. She's watchful about her dress. She pays attention to her dress. Ta'atani, from i'tana. You can tell somebody i'tani binafsik. I take care. Take care. We say i'tani binafsik. You have rakibat su'adu ajalatan. Su'adu rode on a ride. Ajala, wheels. Bicycle can be called ajala. Anything that has wheels, that moves on wheels, can be given the name. So the ajala is the wheels itself, but it's given to the body as a whole. So Su'ad, a name of a woman, she rode on a wheel. Fahimat ihsanu darsaha. Ihsan understood her lesson. Fahimat ihsanu darsaha. Ihsan understood her lesson. Now let's go to the bath and see the signs we are looking for here. It says إذا تأملنا كل فاعل إذا تأملنا كل فاعل في الجمل السابقة. If you should look carefully at every fa'il in the previous examples, previous sentences, رأينا أنه يدل على مؤنث. We realize that the fa'il is feminine, مؤنث. وقد عرفنا في الدرس السابق, and we've seen in the previous lesson, للفعل المؤنث علامة, that the feminine verb has a sign. We've learned in a previous lesson that the feminine verb al-fi'l al-mu'annath, it has an alama, it has a sign. فهل توجد علامة للاسم المؤنث? He's asking the question, he's putting the question. So do we have a sign for a feminine noun? Al-ithmu al-mu'annas. Do we have a sign for it? Of course, yes. He says, انظر إلى الجمل الأربعة الأولى. Look at the first four sentences. تجد أن الفاعل مؤنث. تجد أن الفاعل المؤنث مختوم بتاء متحركة. You find that the feminine fa'il is sealed مختوم, is sealed with a feminine, with a ta that has a vowel. What he's referring, and he says هذه التاء هي علامة من علامات التأنيث من علامات تأنيث الأسماء. Says this particular ta that is at the end of the noun is a sign of feminine nouns. Now let's go back and see the ta he's talking about. He's talking about this ta marbuta, and then this ta marbuta. If you look through, you can see that jaiza also has that ta, so it's feminine. Faqiha also has that ta, so it's feminine. Ajala has it, it is feminine. Every word that has this round ta at the end is feminine. Okay. Now let's come again. And he says, انظر وانظر. So we've seen the first sign, which is التاء المربوطة المتحركة. التاء مربوطة. Okay, التاء مربوطة. When you have a ta marbuta ending a word, the word is feminine. Just like this word mutaharrika here with ta is feminine. Alama is a feminine noun. Okay. Just وانظر الأمثلة الخامس والسادس والسابع. And look at the 5th, 6th, 7th examples. What do we have there? It says تجد أن الفاعل مختوم بألف قصيرة. You find that the fa'il is sealed with alif qasira, a short alif. تسمى alif التأنيث المقصورة. The alif is called alif التأنيث المقصورة. Now this alif you are talking about there is this kind of one, the one ending تسمى here. أخرى here. this kind of alif. Let's look at it there. It says the 5th, 6th, and 7th. This one and that one. That is what is. So we see this. We see it here. Salma. That is the alif maqsura. Layla has it. So the 5th example, 6th, and then 7th. So you find it at the end of Sugra, Al-Kubra, Salma, Layla. So if you want to say something is small, but the particular thing you want to say is small is feminine, you say Sugra, you don't say Sagir. If it's big, you want to say it's big and it's feminine, you say Kubra, you don't say Kabir. So if you say Al-Bintu, Al-Kubra, Al-Bintu, Al-Sugra, either smaller girl or the small girl, the smallest girl or the bigger girl. You don't say, imma you say Sagira with ta marbuta, Sagiratun or Kabiratun. You don't say Sagir or Kabir for feminine. So as-Sugra, either smaller, is given to feminine. Al-Kubra, the bigger, is given to feminine. You can't give that to masculine. Masculine, you say Akbar and then Asgar. Okay. And then again, so our second sign, as he gives us here, he says, so we've seen the alif al-qasira also. So he says you have alif al-ta'nis al-maqsura. This is also the second sign. وهذه الألف علامة أخرى تدل على أن الاسم الذي اتصلت به مؤنث. This particular alif also shows us that the noun that it is attached to is feminine. So every noun you see that particular alif attached to is feminine, like Salma, Layla, Sugra, Kubra, Ukhra, all those are feminine. Okay. Now we have التاء المربوطة المتحركة أو التاء المربوطة. Then we have alif التأنيث المقصورة. Two signs. We come again, he says وتأمل المثالين الثامن والتاسع. So you look at the 8th and the 9th examples. Look at it very well. It says ترى الفاعل. You see that the فاعل فيهما مختوما بألف بعدها همزة. You find that the fa'il is ending with alif, and after the alif you have hamza. So you have alif hamza. وهذه الألف تسمى ألف التأنيث الممدودة, and this alif is called ألف التأنيث الممدودة. وهي علامات التأنيث أيضا, and they are also signs of feminine. So ألف التأنيث الممدودة. Why do we have al-maqsura and al-mamduda? I have a word like Layla. I'll say Layla. I won't say Layla. Layla. The alif is short. Layla. Alif maqsura. But then when I have a word like Haifa'u, I'll say Haifa'u. Haifa'u. So it is mamduda, is stretched. Maqsura is short. Mamduda is stretched. Okay. So that is the third sign. If you have a word ending with alif and then the hamza after it, it's also a sign of feminine. Then he comes here and he says, so that is, let's look at that here. We find it in al-amya, alif and then hamza. Asma'u, we find it alif and hamza. Okay. In all these there are exceptions, but then we are being given the general rule. Okay. And then we come again, we see he says ولكنك إذا تأملت الفاعل في الأمثلة الثلاثة الأخيرة. If you look at the fa'il in the last three examples, رأيته خاليا من أية علامة. You find that the feminine, the fa'il is devoid, خاليا is devoid of any sign من علامات التأنيث السابقة, among the feminine signs that we've seen. مع أنه يدل على مؤنث, regardless the fact that it refers to something feminine. It does not have any sign. Okay, so let's look at it. We have, let me clear this. We have Zainab. Zainab does not have any of the feminine signs. Su'adu does not have any of it. Ihsanu does not have any feminine sign. But they are all referring to feminine. They are all names of women. Okay, so now, basically, even before we look at the qawaid, you have Khadijatu, ta marbuta, and then you have alif al-ta'nith al-maqsura, and then you come here, you have alif al-ta'nith al-mamduda, and then you come here and you have no sign at all, but then it is alamun ta'nith, alamun mu'annath. It is a proper noun and it refers to a woman. And yadullu ala mu'annath, it refers to a woman, so it is also feminine. So you have signs, clear signs that you can see, and some you just have the word referring to something feminine. You don't need it to be having any sign. Okay. So let's look at our qawaid. It says علامات التأنيث علامات تأنيث الأسماء ثلاث. The signs of ta'anis in nouns are 3. تتصل بآخر الأسماء. These signs are attached to the end of the noun. They are suffixed. وهي, and these signs are تاء متحركة. But this ta, let's take note that it is تاء مربوطة. That is what we are talking about. We are talking about ta marbuta. أو ألف مقصورة, or you have your alif مقصورة, as in صغرى, كبرى, ليلى, سلمى. أو ألف ممدودة, or ألف ممدودة, or a stretched alif. And then again our last, he says قد يكون الاسم المؤنث خاليا من علامات التأنيث. He said you might get قد يكون, the feminine noun might be devoid of the alamat ta'nis. You can find a feminine noun, but it is devoid of any sign. You don't find any sign with it. You don't say it doesn't refer to feminine. If the noun itself refers to, it's a woman name, it's a woman name. Su'adu is a name given to a woman. Zainab is a name given to a woman. It's feminine. Okay. So that is, those two, these three are also, or these four are also the sign of feminine. Sometimes you find a word like Ashams. Ashams is feminine, but then it doesn't have any feminine sign. Okay, Al-Ard, feminine, but it doesn't have any feminine sign. Okay. So that brings us to the end of this lesson in understanding the signs of feminine in nouns also. Let's do well to revise very well, share with others. Inshallah, let them also benefit from the lessons. Whatever that is unclear, please do well to ask. Inshallah, let me clarify. إلى لقاء آخر. أستودعكم الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.